So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. We're back again because Villa are back again tomorrow night against Leicester, away to Leicester. And, you know, the away grounds seem to be our playgrounds at the moment, Paddy. And I was doing the Villa View earlier on with Dan Bardell earlier on, very early this morning, actually, in fact. And it was a case whereby we were mentioning that it's almost nearly better for Aston Villa to play away at the moment because since Unai Emery has come in, we look so much more structured, and hopefully that still stands strong again when we play against Leicester at the Walker Stadium, the old Filbert Street. I'm trying to remember what the name of their stadium is, and that's why I was filling in there talking about Bardell. What's it called? The King Power Power Stadium. There it is. Came to me. I think something similar happened recently as well when we were talking about Leicester Stadium.
Yeah.
How are you, Paddy?
Jesus, Neil, what's wrong with you tonight?
I didn't touch anything. I don't know what happened there.
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Got Monday out of the way. Step closer to Good Friday, and it will be a good Friday, won't it, Neil?
It will be a good Friday because I booked my 7:40 a.m. bus to Dublin Airport to get my 3:15 flight. Let me tell you a little story. I don't know if anybody was watching the podcast when we were going up to Norwich last year. There's one thing I nearly like more than watching Aston Villa play, and that's hanging around airports. I know that might sound a small bit mad, but I love when you get to an airport and you just sit there with a pint and you go, I don't have to drive a car. I don't have to be in charge of anything anymore. All I have to do is pick up my bag and walk towards a big tin can that's going to fly in the sky. I love it. It's my favorite part of the whole holiday is that hour, 2 hours. And I'm going to be honest with you, I could be there 6 hours beforehand. I just love sitting around in airports and seeing everybody so giddy and happy about going on holidays. I love it. It's my favorite time. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it this time either, because I'm going to be giddy this time going over to Villa Park, because it's been a while, and it'll probably be a while before I get over again after this trip. So I'm really looking forward to it.
We'll make the most of it, Neil.
We will. I just sent Paddy a text there. I said, I'm going drinking 2 bottles tonight. I'm going drinking 3 bottles tomorrow night, 4 on Wednesday, and 8 on Thursday, just to stretch out the liver before the weekend. You know, you have to do like you never see a Premier League football player go out without stretching. So you got to do the exact same thing as well.
Fair enough. I won't be doing the same thing.
But Villa are hopefully going to be well stretched and well and in good fettle come tomorrow night against Leicester. Managerless Leicester, Paddy.
Yeah. I think that came a bit out of the blue, didn't it?
No.
In a week where they've got 3 games, considering they could have got rid of him sooner, and everybody wanted rid of him sooner. All their fans wanted rid of him sooner. I was at this fixture last year, and their fans wanted rid of him, and he's still there until yesterday. So I don't know. It's a strange one. He's gone now anyway, and I don't envisage they're going to have anybody to play for by tomorrow night. But yeah, I've even forgotten the name of the guy that's in there on his.
Michael Stowell.
Stowell.
Okay. Yes. I went through it. A couple of Michael Stowell's facts.
He was caretaker manager before, wasn't he?
Paddy, you obviously haven't listened to the Villa View today. He was caretaker in 2007, going back as far as 2007, and we went through it. He actually has a 62% win rate as caretaker manager for Leicester. He's managed like 8 games or something. He was joint caretaker with Shakespeare. He was joint caretaker with somebody else after Claude Puel was sacked, and he was caretaker in his right 3 times as well beforehand. He's married to Rachel MacArthur from that used to play with the Lionesses. Yeah, used to play with the Lionesses. He's married to her. as well. So we went through a whole Michael Stowl fact file, and then there's a guy who's Adam Sadler. He's going to be backing him up, and myself, and
Adam Sandler.
that's exactly what we said as well, Adam Sandler. Well, with the influx of Hollywood movie stars into the Premier League or into English football at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me to see Adam Sandler rock up at any of the clubs soon. But yeah, it's like I have a quick one for you, Paddy. So yesterday we saw two managers leave their post in Brendan Rodgers and Graham Potter. The last two managers to leave their post on the same day, who were they and when was it?
Oh, Lord. Premier League managers.
Yeah.
I have a vague recollection of one of ours being one of them. Is that correct? No? Okay, I give up.
So, Dick Advocaat and Brendan Rodgers were both sacked on the same day. Dick Advocaat was managing Sunderland and Rodgers was managing Liverpool. They were both sacked on the same day. And that was the last. Apparently so. That was the last time the two Premier League managers were sacked on the same day mid-season.
I thought there was some news that overshadowed Dean Smith being sacked, and that could have been a transfer or anything. I can't remember, but there was definitely something happened on that day.
And Smith was sacked in October, so maybe it might have been England team announcement or something like
Possibly.
that.
Possibly.
Maybe. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Matt, fights for podcasters. Stop giving you all my money, baby. We stop winning. I'm not so superstitious now.
Keep throwing it at us, Matt. We'll have a couple of points Saturday, and we'll be thinking of you.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, as I say, it's like we're doing the rounds now. We played a team that have lost their man, or that ended up losing their manager directly after we played them, and now playing a team that have lost their manager. And look, I'm not going to rule it out. Steve Cooper is back under pressure again. We'll talk about that later on, Paddy, I suppose, in the week. But bear that in mind that they tried to sack him, gave him a 5-year contract extension, and now probably want to sack him again. So that one's another one that we'll have to talk about. But this Leicester team, like player for player, I put this Leicester team up in the echelons with West Ham in the fact that I really can't understand how they're down there. I can't, because they're not one of the 3 worst teams in the Premier League. They're just so stale. It's the club feels stale or something at the moment. And I hope that they stay stale for another 48 hours at least anyway, because 3 points for us makes it a massive jump up the table potentially.
I think it is more of a case that the club itself is stale. I'm not sure. Now I've nothing to base this on, but I'm not sure the same love is there that Vichai had for the club itself. So I don't know whether that's it or that's what's going on, but the fans aren't happy, players aren't happy, the players aren't functioning the way they were. Like, it's not so long ago that they won an FA Cup, they won the league 6 or 7 years ago. 6 years ago, was it? 2016, was it?
I don't know. I said 4 years ago when I was talking today about it, but I was wildly off the mark. Yeah, about 2015, I think it was.
They probably haven't replenished the players in a way that they should in order to maintain that kind of impetus in the league. They've just seemed to have lost their way a little bit. So, let's make the most of it tomorrow and let them try and rebuild what they're like. I'm surprised. Obviously, it's going to cost a lot of money to get rid of a manager. We all know that. So that's obviously why they haven't got rid of Brendan Rodgers. Maybe they were hoping he'd go himself, but no manager at all. Like, why would you leave a job when you're going to get a free check? It just doesn't make any sense. So,
and to be honest, I don't know Brendan Rodgers. I've never spoken to him. Apparently, he's supposed to be a lovely fella. But when it comes to business and when it comes to stuff like that, and it comes to challenging his honor, I think is the phrase I would use. Apparently, you best be prepared for him not to back down. So like, why would he walk away from it? Why would he walk from it? You're right.
No, but nobody in their right mind walks away from a pay rise or a payoff. That's just the way we all are. Albeit the managers have a lot more money than we have. I think I made a stupid comment to you yesterday saying Potter got enough for us to retire on. He probably got enough for everybody that's watching this show to retire
I was
on.
just about to say, Paddy, rumor has it, once again, open to suggestion in this. Apparently his contract was like was a bazillion euros or whatever over 5 years. That's fine. But apparently there was some clause in it whereby he actually only takes 3.2 million if they sacked him before a certain time. So he had to prove himself to earn the rest of his contract in a severance pay. I read that somewhere last night. I'm open to correction on it, but I think it was Matt Law might have had it. I think Matt Law might have had it on the Telegraph that apparently when they got rid of him, when he did, he had it was a fixed severance pay of 3.2 million. No, which is fine, absolutely. They give me 3.2 million to get sacked at what age is he? 45, 46? Graham Potter. Yeah, I'll take 3.2 million to leave my job in the morning. No bother. But as I say, his contract was whopper. Like they paid 21.5 million for him. And he turned down Leicester today as well, so we're keeping it on topic. Apparently, all signs point that he's going to
allegedly.
Yeah, he's going to take. I think he should. I think he should go the Eddie Howe route and just go to the wilderness for a while, because his stock will grow regardless. Because people will look back at like the better Brighton do when he's not in the Brighton job as well. People will go, oh yeah, but it was Graham Potter that started this Brighton revival,
Yeah.
And that's the way football works. The longer you're on the bench as well, the better a player you were.
He's been involved in an absolute shit show as well for the last few months. The amount of players he's had to try and keep happy there is absolutely incredible. Yeah. And you think of all of what they have to keep happy, and yet who I've forgotten the German guy who was playing up front,
Havertz,
can't even hit a fucking barn door. And yet that's
he'll be at Barcelona he'll be at Bayern Munich for 25 million in the summer.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So look, he didn't sign all those players. I doubt he had any input into most of them. So I think it's very unfair that he was let go. I think they're a club in transition. I think whoever comes in there will be gone very quickly too, because the amount of cleaning up that has to be done is an absolute disgrace. When you think of all the money that's been spent there, like bonkers money. That you often talk about
Paddy.
The stuff that's gone on with amortization of contracts there. They've actually caused UEFA to put a stop to all of these contracts. So it's basically a Chelsea rule that's going to come in to stop other people doing it. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think we need to go back to the days where footballers are free to move after 3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 years is enough of a contract, I think.
Now that you mention it, Paddy, I spoke. I had a small little Twitter kind of back and forth with, in a good way, that is, with Kieran Maguire, and but I spoke to him after we did our podcast about the amortization piece, and a lot of clubs are watching intently with what's happening at Chelsea now, because what was seen as the golden goose for circumnavigating financial fair play, and even with UEFA bringing it in, that after year 5 it still doesn't count. It doesn't count FFP, but for Aston Villa they could still do it for their normal accounting books. So they would still be able to do it even if they're not in European competition. It still stops you from becoming insolvent. So it doesn't really matter as long as you're growing your revenues. But from that point of view, clubs are still looking at it, because they're going, there could be huge losses as well from like these bringing all these players on 8-year contracts, and then doubling down on the fact that, well, we don't want to sell them because we've given them an 8-year contract because they're young and we want to see if they can grow through the club, and then their academy system stagnating here. So there's a massive it's a huge gamble in a way, and I'll be honest, I never thought of it in that way, because I always thought it was really smart accounting, but smart accounting can feck up real life as well, so there's a gooey element to this, because humans have emotions, they're gooey, and some of these guys, if things aren't going right for them after a year or two, will go, I've got an 8-year contract, I'm Winston Bogarting this all day long and I'm refusing to leave, and that's going to be an issue. That could potentially be an issue if the club doesn't get back into gear. And I think that's essentially why they got rid of him, was because they made the mistake. They couldn't wait for Potter to have 18 months and to turn into Manchester United potentially of 18 months of, not really threatening to be at the top and maybe floundering around in the Europa League. For a team like Chelsea, that isn't good enough, and that's not going to pay the bills over time.
But like, you look at Mudryk, who hasn't hit the ground running, not looking likely to hit the ground or improve anyway, and he could still be sitting there picking up those wages in 6 years' time, and they probably grow over time as well. The contract is probably every year the wages go up, so good luck to them sorting that shit show out. That's all I have to say on it.
Yeah, and look, it's that, and what we're saying here is it's like Graham Potter isn't a bad manager overnight. I said it over the
No, he's
last 2 weeks.
absolutely not. He's a brilliant manager, an absolutely brilliant manager, and he's
If you
doing the
allow
right.
him manage,
He's doing the right thing, not going to Chelsea. I think he's right now. I think he
not going to
deserves a
Leicester.
break. Or to Leicester. Sorry, go and enjoy your break, enjoy your few quid, go on a few holidays, and just put all that behind you for a while, and then come back and start again. Because I have no doubt, like there was a lot of talk that when Southgate was under pressure, that Potter would have got his job. You know what I mean? So that he is still held in high esteem, and I'm sure Leicester would have wanted him in straight away. And it seemed like the logical thing to do. But after going through that shit show, I can just see why he took the time out. Absolutely.
Tom Ryan, thank you so much for that. Tom says, have a pint on me. Thank you so much for that,
Cheers,
Tom.
Tom.
And Gary Cressman says, if I were Todd Bowley, I'd do everything I could to sign Unai Emery. No, Villa have something nice for the first time ever. I read a statistic actually today. Do you know what? Like, we have to be careful the way we said this, because in the text group it went, there was a response back to it that I'm not brave enough to say in the podcast. But Unai Emery had the most points after 50 games of any Arsenal manager in the Premier League, and they got rid of him after 78 games. And that's not because he went off the side of a cliff. It's because other teams were that much better than Arsenal at the time. Now, so what I'm getting at here is that, Unai Emery was questioned when he came into the Premier League. Oh, does he have it? He couldn't do it with Arsenal. Context is king. Context is absolutely king. And, the context of that was that the teams that year that were in the Premier League were just, it was outstanding year. Unai Emery outscored from a points point of view from the first 50 games for Arsenal, every other manager that's ever managed in the Premier League. And that's just the reality. Actually, I think it was every other manager that's managed since 1980 or something like that, Paddy, because there was names on it there. It was way more. It was like Don Revie or someone who was on it as well. I must try and see if I can find it actually, so that I can call it out. There was like really old names on it. Let me see that, because that's gonna annoy me now if I don't find that.
But look, we all know that he was on a hiding to nothing coming in there after the Wenger years, and the fans expecting trophies every year, and just when fans are used to that, they become entitled, and it's a hard act to follow. So I would imagine if you said to Unai Emery today, we're going to give you 5 million a year in wages, and Chelsea says we'll give you 5 million a year in wages, I think he'd take our project over Chelsea, because it's an absolute shit show that nobody wants. So yeah, there you go. It goes back. Jesus, I don't even know who Jack Crayston and Tom Whittaker are. I know who Herbert Chapman is. Right?
Once again, I'm open to suggestion that this isn't true. And I know that not every meme you see on the internet is true, but most wins in first 50 games as Arsenal manager.
Outrageous.
Arsenal winger. 23 wins. I suppose what it also shows there, Paddy, is that, you look at that and you go, how forgiving teams were back then when they realized that there was building to be done. And then you look at Graham. And the reason I bring this up is twofold, because Graham Potter didn't get time because Chelsea needed to recoup the capital. And we're lucky we're in a position whereby we've got a man who's gone on and done something like this as well with Aston Villa. I'd love to know what the statistics are for his first 15 games, where he rates in the lexicon of that with other managers. I wouldn't imagine he's at the top, but I would say that he's pretty close. So I'd say he could be in the top 3 of Aston Villa managers after their first 15 games. And I can't wait to see where he is after their first 50 games, because the trajectory is high. It's very, very high.
Yeah, I would imagine he'll be right up near the top when it comes to looking back on his first 50 or 100 games, because the only way is up. And I would imagine he's in for a ruthless summer, and anyone that hasn't bought into what he's at the moment will be for the high road.
I think so.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting few months. But yeah, I'd just like to address something else. I'm reading a lot of people saying we're not ready for Europe. Like, what do people want?
When will we be
We're fucking
ready?
on our arse for 10 years and they're going, oh no, we're not ready for Europe. I never heard such shite in my life. Why would you turn down Europe and the money that comes with it?
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're definitely ready for Europa League. I had this conversation in Claret and Blue, and somebody said, "Neil, you're everywhere lately." I feel like I've been everywhere lately. Where is that? Neil, you're everywhere lately, says Matt Dawson. Yeah, I just love talking Aston Villa. I just absolutely love it. It's become a huge part of my life, and I'll talk about it to anybody until the cows come home.
You'll be
And
doing plenty
just
of that this
delighted to have
weekend.
yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, put it this way. Yeah, if you think the microphone is a precursor to me up my mouth talking about Aston Villa, wait till you see me with a pint glass in my hand, because I just won't stop at all. So apologies in advance. But I had this conversation with John Townley and Dan Ronaldson on the Claret and Blue podcast, and I think being ready for Europa League football or Europa Conference football, I think it's all predicated on the manager. And if you've got a good manager who's a good, intelligent manager, I think that you can mix and match between the two. I'm not fully sure I buy into the squad depth argument. No, obviously I think Villa will definitely strengthen, but I think it's more to do with manager. And we have probably the best European manager, the best manager in Europe to manage a small squad that's overachieving in a European competition in probably the history of
100%.
the tour of European
Yeah.
tournaments. Now, obviously, you're going to talk about, like, not you, but people are going to talk about, oh yeah, but sure, Pep can do it and Klopp could do it for a period of time and all that. Yeah, they've got mega stars, Unfortunately, we don't just yet. So if you're trying to manage a squad of tight knit squad that need to be a unit to play together, I genuinely I couldn't, and I would best anybody to name me a manager that would be better at doing that in the whole of world football. Well, probably the whole of European football than Unai Emery at the moment, and that's what makes me think that we are ready, and we will always be ready when we've got somebody like Unai Emery.
If we got into the Europa Conference League or even the Europa League, with the players we have, even with our fringe players in the team, we are going to get out of the group stages. But like every year, like this year, you have a Man United, you have a Barcelona, you've a Sevilla, you have someone waiting in the long grass that probably shouldn't be in that tournament, and you will get beaten, and that's fine. But look at the money people are turning down by saying we're not ready for it. Look what West Ham did. West Ham didn't spend any money. They're playing with the same 11 players for how long? That's why they're in the position that
they spent money on a striker in Skamaka, who I'm going to put my hand up and say I thought he'd be a hit in the Premier League, and he could still very well be, but he's not getting any chance. He's not getting any chance.
No, well, they can't afford it. They can't afford to put people who are misfiring in at the moment because they need every point that they can pick up. Nope. That's the way it is. Like we went through that period when we stayed up, ironically, at West Ham, and we had to use the only changes we were making were Trezeguet for El Ghazi or vice versa. Yeah. We'd know well to go to bring anybody out of it. So
yeah,
if we get into Europe, we have a summer to bring in a couple of players. The money that will be made by qualifying for Europe, the money that will be made on the television rights for Europe will cover all that. But I'm just sick to the teeth.
For me, it's not even a money thing for me. What it is for me is the stature. It's and I said this as well, is that you think back to 12 months ago when the big, obviously, Super League failed. We haven't even we've barely spoken about Leicester. Sorry for anybody who came here to listen about Leicester chat. It is coming somehow. This is very tangential tonight. I do apologize, but what the breakaway teams, what we call for the Super League, they then came back with a position whereby UEFA are very heavily thinking about it, and I bet they're waiting until the season is over, start making murmurs about bringing it in. But the coefficient, your previous history in European football, so bring a club coefficient in there for each individual club as opposed to for the nation. And if we want to start getting into Europe, yes, merit is going to get us in there. But if we want to start solidifying our time in Europe, getting into the lower European competitions, the Conference League and stuff like that, is going to grow your coefficient. And while it's not in place at the moment, you can be damn guaranteed these big clubs are going to need to be in Europe the whole time, and they're terrified of nouveau money coming in, and and buying like a Newcastle. A Newcastle who's, yes, they were in the Champions League back in the days of Shearer and all that. But that's why they're bringing in this coefficient thing, is to keep the likes of Villa, Newcastle, clubs that are sleeping giants, that are dormant, that with the injection of money that Man City got would be shoot to the top, and make it even more, more teams kind of pulling at the same meat. But and that's what they're going to do. So now is exactly the right time for that to happen, so 100%. That you can start, because it'll be too late once they bring this rule in. And look, with regards to Europe, we'll be talking about that, I suppose, more and more, I think, over the course of the next few weeks, as our hopes strengthen or dwindle as the weeks go on, and hopefully, obviously, as I said,
I just, after 12, 13 years of an absolute fucking shit show, can we not just enjoy it for what it is at the moment, without having accountants on Twitter telling us we're not ready for it? Look, just enjoy what it is, because there's a whole generation of people now that haven't seen Villa play in Europe. And while I missed out on them in the noughties when I was buying a house and kids were young and I couldn't afford to go, the 1990s, when I went to places like Atletico Madrid away,
I was going to say,
seriously, guys, the crack and the few days we had on those trips. Strom's Godset, so I can't even say the name of it, but I've been there. Incredible stuff. It's just amazing memories. And even those that went to Ajax and places like that in the noughties, it's absolutely amazing. To be able to travel and watch Villa is incredible. The people you meet and friends for life that you come across, it's just an amazing thing to happen. So we just got to embrace it if it happens. We've got to enjoy it. We might go out in the first round. Who cares? We've got there. It's something to build on. It's something to attract players to the team. But you're right. We need to move on to Leicester eventually.
Exactly, because we've what, 3 teams anyway, at least, to leapfrog before we can start dreaming about Europe. Yeah. Really,
well, we could be, if all goes our way, we could be top 6 tomorrow night. Remember?
That's exactly yeah, absolutely. So talking about Leicester, just nearly 28 minutes into the podcast. Like, I could name their team for you right now. I think I could, and that to me goes to the fact that they've got good players, and it also goes to the fact that what I mentioned at the start of the podcast, that they were gone stale. So I bet you Everson will be in goals. You probably have Pereira. Okay, maybe I couldn't name their team. I got a complete blank about what centre halves they have.
Yeah, the back 4 won't change.
Probably Suter and Faze. And
Castagna right,
Castagna, maybe Luke Thomas,
Christensen left full. They'll have Dewsbury, Holland, and Didi sitting. Barnes, Madison, Tete, and I would imagine it's going to be Iheanacho.
Oh, it's Iheanacho for sure.
Yeah. So Iheanacho, Daka, or Jamie Vardy, who have all had really good games against us over the years.
Yeah.
James Maddison is apparently they're managing an injury.
Thanks, Rod.
Cheers, Rod. And they've like, without Tielemans as well, I'm happy he's not there, to be honest, because he always plays well against us too, as does Harvey Barnes. So look, they will pose a threat. I hope they don't announce a manager before tomorrow evening. I think that's important for us.
I hope they announce Rafa.
Well,
there's big rumors going around that it might be Rafa.
Yeah. I don't care who it is. I just don't want it to be announced tomorrow. I don't want the players to have to feel that they're playing for somebody tomorrow. So I really couldn't give a shiny shite who it is, because it's Leicester and it's not Aston Villa. But we'll wait and see what that brings. But just don't do it tomorrow and have him sitting in the stand, whoever that is, and them waiting to show what they can do to the new manager. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. I agree, and like as I say, with that team, that's a good team. That's a good Leicester team. Yeah, I think you could say the same thing about a lot of teams in the Premier League that they're looking for a number 9. But Iheanacho scores against Aston Villa, so like that's what he does. That's how he's gotten contract after contract, is he just scores goals against Villa, and you can guarantee it. And we're going to need to be on our toes with him tomorrow. That three there just behind him are a formidable outfit. As you said, Madison maybe he doesn't start the game. Maybe they're managing that injury, as you said there.
Mm.
But Dennis Pratt is doubtful for the game tomorrow as well, apparently. But it'd be interesting to see what way they look at that three in behind the striker, because they're one of the few teams that has really, really persisted with the 4-2-3-1. They've really persisted. Like they're one of the few. They're one of the teams now in the Premier League that's not really kind of strayed at all from it. Some teams have gone maybe to a three at the back for maybe a couple of games,
Mm.
whatever. Maybe they have. In fact, actually, the more I think about it, I think Rodgers might have gone to a three at the back. But it's almost synonymous. But since Vardy's been at the club, they've left him up top on his own, left him do all the donkey work, and then played players in around him. And I think that's interesting,
Yeah.
for this team.
And newsflash, we're not gonna see any difference tomorrow if a manager was only appointed yesterday as a temporary manager after their warm down yesterday morning. So it'll be an interesting team selection, because there's always a bolter when that happens.
Yeah.
But I don't envisage anything strange other than Patson Daka maybe not starting. I'd probably see Iheanacho in there.
Yeah, maybe you might see, if he's fit, maybe like Soumare's had a very, very good season. Maybe he's in there instead of Ndidi. Maybe he's in there instead of Dewsbury Hall, to really solidify that there. Dewsbury Hall has been, a find for them from their academy system, but maybe they go with somebody who's just very much kind of put a foot in the ball and pass it sideways type player, like a Soumare comes in there as well. I don't know, but it's they've got good players. They've invested pretty well throughout the course of the years. Yeah, probably it's stagnated. Well, it has stagnated because they didn't buy that many players over the last 18 months. But prior to that, they had a really good scouting system. Sure, one of them is now part of our scouting system, and Rob McKenzie. But I like the look of Tete, who's come in there, scored a good goal against us, and we have to be on our guard against this Leicester team, because the only time they've really turned it on this season has been against us. Now, I don't think that Unai Emery is going to set up the same way he did at Villa Park, but we need to go there and get a goal early. We need to turn that crowd against the team. They've been turning against the manager for a long time. We need to turn them against the team as well. And I actually genuinely believe that it's the biggest game of our season tomorrow, because 3 points tomorrow has us absolutely buzzing going into Forest. Selfish reasons, I want us to be really buzzing going into Forest. Villa Park with the potential of going of leapfrogging more teams again on Saturday, and the potential of going 3 games, 1 in a row, or 1 in a week. It would be massive, absolutely huge. The atmosphere would be out of this world, but it can't be that way unless we win tomorrow. And that's why I'm cautious about it.
After a game on Saturday, that this could be our most important week of our season. If we pick up 9 points this week, imagine what it's going to look like come Saturday evening when we're sitting in whatever pub drinking dirty, horrible,
no such thing.
Beer.
If look, Paddy, put it this way, right? We'll have a few points before the game, we'll have a few points during the game, and at that stage there'll be no such thing as dirty, horrible beer, because it'll all taste the same. David Style says here that the stat about Leicester being Emery's bogey team has tempered my excitement a little bit. Hope he can put that to bed. Big thing I would say there is that you're right. Emery has never beaten a Mike Stoll as a manager. He's never beaten Mike Stoll as a manager.
Has he ever played against him?
I jest and I joke about that. Actually, myself and Bardell were trying to figure out if he did play against him, because Stoll took over in 2019 and 2017, and we were wondering, was Emery manager back then, when he was caretaker manager, but I don't think he was. Look, we've vanquished an awful lot of ghosts, and Unai Emery has as well. He laughs in the face of danger. That's what we see at this moment in time. So go get the monkey off your back, Unai, and let's beat. And this is another one from Paul McAllister. But let's go and beat Leicester at the weekend. But I genuinely believe there's revenge in the hearts of Unai Emery, and I'll tell you why I believe that, Paddy. I believe it because the post-match press conference, he almost gritted his teeth when he started talking about Tuesday night. We want to go out on Tuesday night. We want to be better. Why do we want to be better? Because they humbled us at Villa Park.
Yeah.
They really did. We would have expected maybe to lose to Arsenal. Would have maybe expected to lose to City. I bet you if you were to stick a lie detector on him, he didn't expect to lose to Leicester. Or maybe he would have given them the respect they deserve. Don't get me wrong. This is me trotting all over Leicester. They're a good team. I've just spoken.
It was more got to do with the manner of the perspurance more than anything
That's
else.
exactly it. Yeah. I bet you he's torn over that because after that game, he came out and he was he's spitting fire. He started calling things not right, and I don't know how we can do this. Why we can't play at home? He was frustrated. He was ratty after that.
And they would have. I'm 99% sure that they would have sat through that game again today. That's the type of manager we're dealing with here now, and he will talk them through every aspect of that game, which he probably did after that game. But just to remind them that what Leicester did to us the last day was unacceptable. That
it was our only unacceptable performance, I think, so far this 90-minute performance, I think, so far this season.
100%. Like we were unlucky to lose a point against Arsenal. We could have nicked something at Manchester City, although it was probably out of sight. But
Wolves first half was dour enough, but
still come back and got a point out of it. Speaking of which, we were slagging a little bit before we came on air. Everton came back with 10 men and drew against Spurs tonight. It's nuts.
We weren't really slagging. Spurs went down to 10 men as well. Oh yeah, but that was Lucas Moura in the 88th minute, and they scored in the 90th minute. Michael Keane. Yeah. Kane and Keane. And in some parts of Ireland, you'd call Kane Keane as well, and you call Keane Kane. So for anybody who's not Irish, you're definitely not going to understand what that means, but it happens. Keane, where I'm living at the moment in Galway, is pronounced Kane, and Kane in some parts of down the south of Ireland is pronounced Keane. Look, just have a few pints and it all makes sense after that. Just do it. Don't worry about it. Rod's talking about Stevenage being our worst performance. I actually think the Stevenage performance is actually all right, except for the last 5 minutes. But I know where you're coming from in that one. That was a cocky performance, and we certainly haven't seen.
And we did rest
a level
of too.
Yeah. Well, Look, we're not giving them a pass for Stevenage all the same.
No,
we're not giving them a pass for Stevenage all the same.
I'll put it to you this way: I will totally forgive the Stevenage performance if we qualify for Europe this season, because I thought our best chance of getting into Europe was getting a win in the FA Cup or getting to the final and being beaten by a Champions League team. So yes, if we get to Europe, I couldn't give a shit about the Stevenage performance.
Phil there for a minute, Paddy. Something just popped into my head.
What do you mean, Phil? This is the most I've ever spoken on this podcast.
I know, yeah. Well, go for it.
I'm on a roll.
Points total.
Zed,
talk about FCZ. Yes,
FCZ. Yes, the announcement today. You were of the opinion that we announced this already.
We did. I found 3 articles. One in the Birmingham Mail saying, in 2021 it was announced, but it was announced that there was an initial agreement. This is the formalization and a long-term agreement being signed. Yeah, so we were both right.
Yeah. Well, I've bad news for people that think we're getting involved with a real historic football club like ourselves and like Vittoria Gummer is. But ZFC are only 13 years old. They were formed in 2009. They were then called FC Mazar. They're from a town called Gezira in Egypt. They wear all black. They're like the All Blacks, which is a strange choice of colour given the heat that they play in.
Paddy, would you believe that while black attracts the sun, it holds it in as well? And we'll get into it some other time. It's a physics thing.
Neither here nor there.
No.
They're a small club. They play in the appropriately named Z Park. They've got a capacity of 4,000 in that stadium. They're owned by Onzi Sawiris, who is the nephew of Nasir Sawiris. Hence, the tie-up was almost inevitable from the start. They play in the second division, the second tier of the Egyptian league. In their 13 years, they've only played in the Premier League for one season, and they were relegated straight away. So, just to give you an insight into what we're buying, or not we're buying, but the V Sport are getting involved with. It's not someone that we're automatically going to be pulling players from or anything like that. So you can get that out of your head. Only, funny enough, they've been managed twice by Mohamed Salah. Not the Mohamed Salah, but they were managed twice by Mohamed Salah. So it's an interesting one. They've obviously formalised it. I think the U team are out there playing this week, are they?
They are, yeah. They're playing under 17 tournament with Panathinaikos. I think Feyenoord are out there as well. FCZ, Vitoria Guimarães, ourselves. So there's a little international under 17 tournament on out there as well. And I think we saw Mr. Cole Ramsey was one of the faces of the tour of the announcement of the tournament as well. So I don't know what Cole Ramsey. Actually, I should have really Googled him to see what he looked like. I couldn't really tell you what he looked like. I saw a guy and I went, "Oh, he's surely a Ramsey. He looks exactly like Jacob." So I'm guessing that it was Cole Ramsey. That it was there. Yeah, it was Cole Ramsey that was there. I just Googled him there. So yeah, all these links for me, Paddy, are great. Because you don't need to form partnerships with clubs that are of massive, massive stature. Sometimes, building a club to a kind of a medium base is probably even better because you want your players to go and play at a certain level. Now, I think this is going to be more of a situation whereby Aston Villa will use that and the Senegalese link up they have to scout Africa and to bring African players in there to grow that club. I don't put it this way. I don't think Louis Barry is going to be playing for FCZ next year in a loan deal or Arian Reiki or anything like that. I don't think that's going to happen. What I do think is we're going to utilize maybe the North African contingent there, scouting the scouting networks around there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe one or two more clubs in other countries come on board. But look, I think it's positive as well. Egypt is a massive footballing country, huge footballing country. If you can, and from the point of view of revenue as well, remember that, guys. From the point of view of revenue, if you could somehow go in and corner like 6% of the Egyptian market for Aston Villa, 6% more, based on the fact we have Trezeguet, or we had Trezeguet previously. But if you could go away and get FCZ up into the Premier League and get him solidified in there in the Egyptian top division or whatever like that, and then it grows, and then FCZ fans then become Aston Villa fans, just like I follow the Cleveland Browns, because Cleveland Browns and Villa had linked together, and just because when we see lots of fans from the US and we will over time, I would imagine, as Jean Heder Duran starts scoring goals for Colombia, start seeing more Colombian fans come and follow Aston Villa. That's the way it works, ties start to happen that way, and I'm okay with this. I'm absolutely okay with this, and I think it's going to be the first of a couple of more clubs that may not be massive starlight names in their leagues, but they will offer a scouting network. They will offer an opportunity to grow players within a certain area, and it's all about that those kind of ties and infrastructural ties that can help.
And it's all coming together. So we have an Egyptian owner, and we now have an Egyptian team. We've got the Las Vegas Villains potentially coming down the line. And the one thing that I love hearing these things, the likes of Vitoria Guimarães, the likes of Zed, the link in Africa as well, is that they're totally invested in this. They're not going away anywhere. They're invested in this project. We are the elite team in that project, and no disrespect to Vitoria Guimarães, they're doing very well in the league. They could potentially be in Europe too as well. So look, it's all pointing towards the owners being an integral part of this club for many years to come, and that's what's important to me.
Absolutely. Chad from Villa Forever podcast, I'm going to be popping on with him maybe next week, maybe next Thursday. If you're not following that podcast, Villa Forever podcast, give it a follow. Great guy, and I'm going to be popping on to chat with him. Hopefully,
Chad, I can tell you now that it's not Budweiser he's drinking, because
No,
that's usually what I would drink,
no,
and he gives me an awful time over it.
I give him an off time. It's Madry is what it is, the bottle of Madry. But yeah, if you guys want to, like, I've watched a couple of Chad's podcasts there. He had Greg Evans on recently as well. So give it a check it out, and I'm looking forward to going and chatting next Thursday. I think it is the 13th. I'm gonna drop on and have a chat on that as well. So thanks a million for watching, Chad, as always. Right, Paddy. Anything else we need to talk about this Leicester game? We've done our best to not talk about Leicester tonight. Like, I don't know why, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like, as I say, it's not, and I hope it doesn't come across as the fact that, you know, the noise and the ball from us, but it really is. It's just we got tangentially down other avenues today, and there's a lot to talk about in the footballing world at the moment.
There's a lot going on, and that's, you know,
there's a lot going on. Yeah,
there's a lot of people love this show during the week because we just talk about what comes into our heads as opposed to being totally focused on everything else. So if that's the case, you're more than welcome. We're well able to come on and talk shite for whatever amount of time you want us to talk shite as well. But yeah, it's a big game. We'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow in the team sheet tantrum, I'm sure. I think I'm kind of just gliding and glossing across it because I just don't want to imagine what it'd be like if we lost the bloody game. I'm just on the crest of a wave at the moment, and I'm so happy with how everything is going, and I hope it stays the same.
Absolutely, I'm the same, and I'm going to be honest. I think one of the reasons why Leicester is kind of why the Leicester game is kind of popping on my mind is sometimes you need a decompression from the first game. It's coming 72 hours after the game at the weekend, which was a big high. I genuinely, I really kind of, I was really happy after beating Chelsea because I wasn't quite sure whether we would. I felt we had the opportunity to do it, but I wasn't quite sure whether we would. And I thought we might have had a moral victory as such because we had such a bad record against Chelsea. But we went and we beat them, and you know, I suppose that there's so much kind of going on in the world since, in the footballing world, and specifically with regards to Chelsea. And you know, when you come on directly after the game, you kind of talk just about that kind of off the cuff, from the bottom of your stomach, kind of guttural emotion. And I think it's probably too close to the Chelsea game for us to give this game it's fair due. But I hope if there is any Leicester fans watching this podcast, first of all, I like Leicester. I've been on a lot of Leicester fan podcasts previous, and they're good guys. And when they beat us 4-2, I was on a podcast and I was messaging the guy, and I was there, oh my God, can you please, you know, stop kicking the ball over our defenders and running onto it. And I think is what I said. And then he sent me back. He was magnanimous and he said, listen, there's a long way to go yet. There's maybe about 40 minutes to go in the game. And yeah, I've got a good time for Leicester. So yeah, but as I say, tomorrow come what 7:45, I will definitely be shouting for Aston Villa. No spoilers there. And I hope the Villa go and exercise the demons of that 4-2 defeat.
Marine Boy says we always had a good record at the old Filbert Street. I only went to Filbert Street once and we lost. I'm pretty sure Martin O'Neill was the manager. Del Boy, who listens to the podcast, I think I told the story before. We spent a week over there, and we went to Leicester, and for some strange reason we went to see Crystal Palace versus Bolton at Selhurst Park. strange week, but yeah, lots of stories from that trip. But we did lose at Filbert Street. And if you've never been to Filbert Street, if you ever see the videos of what it's like getting into the away end of Kenilworth Road, Luton Town, that's exactly what Filbert Street was like. You're going in through someone's back garden to get into the away end. It was good crack.
Yeah, I was just about to say Selhurst Park and Filbert Street. I think I read somewhere there were two grounds where you definitely feel the breeze rip through them. You know, specifically back in the day, and probably if Filbert Street was still there, I know it probably still exactly the same. But anyway, that's going to do it for tonight, guys. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up on your way out if you haven't done so already. The more thumbs up we get, the more YouTube pushes it to would-be watchers and would-be listeners. And we can only thank you for doing all you do for the podcast from that point of view. And yeah, as I say, we're going to be back tomorrow with the Team Sheet Tantrum, 6:35. Weird time, but we will be here 10 minutes before the team sheet is announced. 6:35. Back here tomorrow with that. Post-match podcast is pending tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure will I be around to be able to do it, but if I am, we will do a podcast close enough to the end of the game. It could be a bit later. It mightn't be on the final whistle again as normal, but we will come with a post-match podcast at some stage tomorrow night to discuss it. It could be closer to 10 o'clock GMT. For any of you here in the UK and in Ireland. So keep an eye out for that. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. And yeah, I suppose really all that's left to say is I'm looking forward to this game, and I hope you all are too. So stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.